Hey there, I am JB, and in today's episode of Satisfactory we're going to get into the oil industry business. And as you guys can see in the front of me, these guys don't wear any Ficmas outfits anymore, and that means that we can now turn off the power completely from our Christmas factory, because we are going to need to use all of the little bits of power that we are currently having, because I already had a problem with this Christmas factory that I was running out of power and I had to shut down a couple of assembly lines, which in this case we now have let's say 400 megawatts already, and there is another part that I can actually shut down, which in this case we're gonna go up and through the floor, because right down here we also have the rocket facility and we can just shut it down by removing that one. So in this case that means you're going to get even more, and now we have about 600 plus minus megawatts to play around with. But I have to keep in mind, I've been shutting down the copper factory, I've been shutting down a couple of other things, and I will have to get back to each and every of them, but I will do that after we have been setting up some oil production, not only for plastic, rubber and that good stuff, but also for refinery power. I'm not sure what to call it. Petroleum power, is that it? Yeah, so fuel powered generator. So this is the guy that we want, because with this guy we can generate some extra power. And in order to do that, we're going to need to have rubber, we're going to need to have plastic. Now I just want to take a little look in this box down here, which I have one rubber and a little bit of plastic. This is not going to be enough, because these guys, I think they might also use plastic or rubber or any of that kind. The first thing that we're going to need to do is go to oil processing, and for that I'm going to need to have some goodies. Well, the only thing that I didn't keep in mind is that I don't have any motor production just yet, but gladly I apparently have enough stuff with me in order to make the needed motors.
Milestone reached. Crude oil can now be extracted and refined to produce various industrially beneficial parts. The byproducts of these processes will require careful management, but a capable pioneer such as yourself surely understands that. To improve efficiency, pipelines can now be optimized with valves to limit and balance their throughput. These were initially left out because Fixit did not want to overwhelm pioneers with complex pipeline management, but they have since been re-added after my impassioned defense of your capabilities.
Right, okay. A long story short, we now have the oil processing industry unlocked, which we have a refinery, we got the oil extractor, we got some new shop products and all that kind of stuff. Now of course we're going to need to have a spot where we're going to set this up. In the past I've actually been around the map, because right down here I know there were a lot of enemies which I needed the remains, right? Because we wanted to make DNA capsules, we want to have as much as possible. In order to do that, I'm saving everything up once again. And right down here in this area, which I did in my season 1, I knew that there were a couple of oil spots. So we need to go there with some goodies, because once again, this requires some motors. So to keep that in mind, requires some more motors. Alright, and so we be here. I'm exactly at the middle area where there should be a couple of these oil spots. I have been cleaning out this whole area from the enemies. Took a couple of power slugs and some summer sloop. Meanwhile, I've been thinking, what do I want to do? And I'm going to keep in mind there are multiple spots onto this map where we can get oil in order to power up. But I guess what I should be doing is see how much is here available. So we have this pure one. And we got two other one. I need to be quick. This is a normal one. This is a pure one. I think I would like to use both pure ones in order to power up stuff, and just use this one to get a bit of basic stuff like rubber, plastic, maybe something else going. I think it would be a very good plan to make like a nice station down here. Okay, the only thing that I will have to do is get back, and before I'm getting back is I will place some containers down. And I'll just leave everything that I got with me right down here. And then I'm gonna grab a whole bunch of concrete, stuff for the Hypertube and whatnot, because I got a Hypertube from the base that goes to the coal power plant, and from the coal power plant I would like to have another Hypertube going all the way right down here along with a road. It took quite some time, and in the future I definitely want to make use of blueprints, but I now have the road, I got like a Hypertube, I got power, everything all the way from the coal power plant towards this area. And for the future I just have to see where we need to go to, because apparently over there is like a ginormous oil node, which I think I'm going to need to have something different for that. Now down here in this area though, there are 2 pure nodes and there are 2 normal nodes, and I basically discovered something odd, because if I would do this, there should be 4 nodes. Right, 1, 2, 3. It doesn't pick up the 4th one. So there is normal node here and here. There is a pure one here and here. Now you might say, well, what is... it's the distance. Well, actually it's not a distance, because if I would do this, there we go. You can see it picks up stuff that is like 12,000 meters away, which is all the freaking way right down there. So it's definitely not the distance. It just doesn't want to select more than 3, and I have actually tested that, because if I'm going to stand right down here at this spot, right, and I would scan it 1, 2, 3, and it doesn't pick up the one that is down here. Now if I would go to that one, this one doesn't show up. It doesn't want to pick it up, and I'm not sure why. I think this is like or either a bug, or it's set to only show 3 max, which is a bit odd though. Now I just want to show you guys, for the one who doesn't know, what I mean with the other oil thing, which I need advanced stuff. It's one of these. Like, it's the same like these geysers, and apparently I need to have a special machine that's gonna go on here, and then I need to have like smaller machine that's gonna go on here. I think I've seen such a thing at someone with nitrogen gas or whatever it was. Alright, I got the first setup done, and meanwhile I was busy with all of this stuff. I have kind of noticed that in the future this down here is going to be a massive project where we're going to create a mass number of power. So first things first, that oil extractor is right now extracting 120 oil per minute, which at this moment is a little too much, but it's okay. Which all the way is being transported to these 2 refineries. One refinery basically makes plastic, the other one makes rubber, and in the end it's also making heavy oil residue, which I can be using that a little later on for something. But right now, in order to take care that I am producing enough plastic, I have basically been placing 2 of these, what is it called, buffers, fluid buffers down here, which at this moment can store around 800 of heavy oil residue, which is very nice, right? So I just really took care that I got enough space for all of this stuff. I mean, I could have planted that stuff all the way down there, but I figured out it's not going to be handy. Future-wise, if you want to max out the oil extractor down there, we can place a couple of these guys along the edge right down here, connect them up, and for an example, only make plastic with that setup. Then with the other oil extractor, we can make like a rubber only production line. And of course with the other 2 pure ones, you're gonna generate power. And then there is like a crude nodes, which I'm not sure is yet what I want to do, but I cleared out a lot of stuff in the area. We're also going to use that one right down here, and then I'll guess eventually in the future I'm going to make another platform on top. Maybe we're going to do some stuff with the trains, which I'm going to keep in mind. There's a lot of fun stuff coming up with this area, but for right now, let me see if I got enough stuff in order to unlock the next phase. Okay, let's see. We want to have petroleum power. Yeah, okay, correct. Well, let's just instantly do this stuff. Now for the motors, I have been setting something up, so it should all be filled up very well. I basically, you know, put some stuff here and there. We threw these guys in order to make the motors. I've been cranking it up with a summer sloop, which basically means that I am good with that.
Milestone reached. It is my honor and privilege to inform you that the fuel-powered generator, as well as the industrial fluid buffer, are now available. Due to a lack of gold in your sector, Caterium will serve as a suitable replacement to construct the fuel-powered generator. Your research into this element was valuable. In fact, you in particular are my most valuable pioneer, but don't tell the others I said that, it would be bad for morale.
Right. Don't tell the others, huh? Okay, so this guy, let me see. We now have this, yeah. Okay, a little bit of rubber. We're going to have a lot of motors and a couple of other ingredients, which is not a big issue. Alright, I have removed the setup that I had down there for a very good reason, because I have actually been mistaken on how you need to fill up the fuel generator. I thought all you needed was this thing down here, put the oil into a refinery, and from the refinery it makes fuel, which goes directly into the fuel generator. It needs to be done it needs to be done different, excuse me. And what needs to be done different is I got like a small little setup right down here, and this setup shows me perfectly what I need to do. The only thing that I just need to change for right now is actually change this into a rubber, because I'm going to need to have a couple more rubber. I'm going to have 1000 rubber, and I'm going to need to remove this guy. And I will tell you in a second why, unless you can already see that I want to unlock piping MK2, and there's a reason why I need piping MK2. Now in this case it will give me 120 per minute, right? And the pipe 1 can only handle 300 per minute, which is perfect for this guy. The pure nodes can give a lot more than that. I do believe the pure nodes can give 600, so with that I will get a problem if I need to use MK1. MK2 pipes, however, can transport 600 per minute, so that's why I want to unlock the MK2 piping. Now the oil will go in here, which then will create... I need to do that one. It will create heavy oil residue, and heavy oil residue is the thing that I need in order to make fuel. That's where I mistaken before, so apparently I need to do it like this. And then once it has fuel, it can be sent into this big generator, right? Which will create 250 megawatts in this case. Now the thing here is I have 2 normal nodes and I have 2 pure nodes. What I want to do is create the setup in one hit. I don't want to do one section, then another section, because this will give me a little bit of calculation issues. If it's about, I think it was this guy right down here, 60 per minute, 40 per minute, I think it's this one. Yeah, it will give me 20 per minute. If I would crank this up, it will give me 50, right? And 50 is an odd number because I'm going to need to have 60, so which basically means I'm going to need to borrow from someone else. Now if I would put this into, let's say, 30 per minute, I need 45 of that, which is an issue with this, because this one, like 45 is 90, 2 times 90 is 180, and this thing can do 300. So it's gonna give some issues here and there, based on what it will need and what it will give. Alright, it is a new day for me, and yesterday I had a little bit of a stressful bad day, and my apologies for the messing around on this episode with that. But at the end of the day I finally figured something out, and I'm looking at one of these power generators. I realized there is something that needs to be done different. We'll take a look at that in a second. But long story short, the 300 oil that comes out there will be made into plastic. All of the heavy oil that is the byproduct from it will be sent to this machine, and this machine makes the heavy oil into fuel, and the fuel is getting split up into 2 fuel generators. Now this is where the mistake comes from my end, because I couldn't figure something out and I facepalmed at the moment I actually figured it out. So I was basically like, okay, this setup requires a certain amount of power, right? All of these guys, including that guy. And then I was like, okay, I got a little bit of extra megawatts from 2 of these guys, which is very odd because these 2 guys only give me 200 megawatt. And I was like, how in the world am I ever going to set up more power with this setup? That is not possible. I felt like I was missing something, I was misunderstanding something, and indeed, this guy is what I was looking for. This guy makes fuel directly from the crude oil without the need of anything between in, so I facepalm myself very good. So what I'm going to do is the normal node that is left over there with also 300 oil, I'm going to make that into rubber, right? I think I get like 400 something plastic, which for now should be enough. The rubber will also be sent to the storage, and then these 2 other pure nodes, I want to, you know, make them into power 100% without this between in messing around. You know what is nice? After a lot of messing around, a lot of frustrations, anger, and happiness, I finally all have it done right down here. Yet there is one little mistake I made. I will just, you know, show it to you. Basically, this construction down here. I don't know why, and I will have a look at it once again. But first, I basically made like the skeleton of this construction, and then when I started to add like these inclined pieces, I noticed there is 1 piece left over in the middle and 3 pieces there left over in the middle. You know what, I'm just gonna accept that, because the target of this episode was setting up the oil industry, and I figured it out. In the end, I figured it out. I did got some help offered. I wanted to try it one more time. And yeah, here it is. Okay, so let me just show it to you what I've exactly been doing. Which in this case, you know, if you're looking for answers or some kind of a setup, I can just exactly show it to you. It did got to look a little bit different than I wanted to. I really want to create something like Gigabyte does, you know? Gigabyte just plops down a whole row of these things and a whole row of these things, and then behind it he plops down all of these things. And, you know, I got basically everything into sections, which, you know, in the end, it's not a bad thing, but maybe I should choose a different subject in order to create something that he does for once. So we have this normal node. This normal node is maxed out. Maxed out 300 oil per minute, which is using MK1, which can do max 300 per minute. That is being used to create plastic, and for plastic only, that is the subject I need to keep in mind. This is, by the way, one of these pumps underneath the floor. This node here will split itself up into 5 refineries. That is the max with a nice number you can do, which, yeah, is 40 per minute. You cannot do 80 per minute, maybe 6. No, you can also not do 60 because it's 50% with it, which gives like a very odd number, I wanted to say. Meanwhile, I was, you know, looking if I had some more power chart, but it just gives some odd numbers. And the easiest way for me is just split it up into 5 of these refineries, then, you know, boost it up until 200%. Which will give also a nice number on these things, because it's not only what you make, it's also what you get. And what you get is something you need to calculate to the next machine, calculate it to the machine after that. So this is just nice, spread out over 5 of these things, right? And then they make like heavy oil, and heavy oil can be made into fuel. In this case, it gives a very weird number, but it's the absolute max these things can give me from a normal node, one normal node. Now this number is something you can put right down here, which basically, it's kind of weird though, because what I did here was keep using a number, and then I typed in 6, and then I typed in a 7, which it does show it weirdly, but it does add it to this, which basically means this here is 100% efficient, this not, but that's okay. This number is something you can split up in 2, believe it or not, which I then split it up into 2, because once again I cannot add 2 times 166% in one machine. That's not gonna work. There's not enough percentage left for it. So I had to split it up. Then basically you split it up the number. This was once again apparently the same number. I don't ask me how, but it is. It's funny if I do this. It changes the sound. Anyways, the same setup for the plastic will go for the rubber. Now the only thing that is different with the rubber, instead of 20 raw oil per minute, this one gives 40 raw oil per minute. Which, long story short, all I had to do is, instead of one refinery, I had to make 2 and then split it up once again into 2 and 2, which is very nice, right? Coming up next is the pure nodes. I got 2 pure nodes, so basically the setup, so slash is the same, I only placed it differently based on the space I have, which right down here, this thing is maxed out, gives 600 oil per minute. I use MK2, which can handle 600 oil per minute. It just split up, so 300 goes there, 300 goes there, and then I have 2 of these guys on each side, and one of these guys is full maxed out and accept 150. 2 times 150 is 300. Then it goes into a perfect 100 fuel per minute, and any resin is just gonna go to the sink because the storage is already full. Later on I can, you know, do some other stuff with it. And also the conveyor belt can only handle a certain amount, so I got like 3 sinks. One is here, one is there, and another one because it's full. Anyways, 200 is getting put out by both of these, including the other 200 is a total of 400. So once again, MK2 belts that can handle it easy. These pipes are gonna go all the way around instead of belts. And then what I did here is face them back to back instead of front to front, which I did with the other setup. One of these guys is completely maxed out, which can handle 50 fuel per minute. So you can guess, in order to share up 400 fuel per minute, I had to place 8 of these things and max them all out. Down here, like I said, it's the same story. The only thing that is different is I put the pipes up the front and the connection to the power at the back. And the stuff is right down. I like this setup a lot more because the overview is a bit better and it's a lot more direct. And the stuff comes from the floor, goes up into the front, and then it comes from over there. Whew. So what did I learn for today? Well, what I learned for today is that next time when I start messing around with something that I haven't really been doing, because I've only messed around with the oil in season 1, which I only had like a tiny setup, a tiny little oil rig, and that was it. Here I'm really trying to do max out everything, and what I've learned for today is take a look at everything before you even do something, because this is what I was looking for before and I didn't look at it, and I only looked at these 2 thinking like, okay, how is this gonna give me extra power, because making this whole setup requires more power than you get, and I only got left with 200 megawatts, and I'm like, huh? This is not how it's supposed to be. And then I was like slapping my face and I'm like, okay, this is what I need. So next time, yeah, I need to remind myself to take a look first. Anything else? What I will do off camera / is I will keep working onto the steel frame. Then I'll probably end up making like a rooftop onto it, and then that's it. Maybe I'll just expand this part over the road, because in the future we might need to have a train station on top, which is going to be one of the next things that I actually want to mess around with. Alright, let me see, what did I do wrong? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 beam. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 beam, or better to call them support. 1, 2, 3, 4 Aha, there is the error. This report thing had to be here.